I may not be the most qualified trend predictor out there, but if there was one accessory that I think is coming back in 2026, it is most definitely the feather boa, and here's why. Now, I really started to think about the return of the feather boa after Mathieu Blasy's Métiers d'Art show for Chanel, which debuted in the subway in New York City, where we saw really the Maison Le Merrier showing its full capacity with feathers and all of these beautiful details. But then very soon after, Jonathan Anderson premiered his pre-fall 2026 collection for Dior, which included this scarf, as well as this one. It was in that moment that I really started to feel that I might be onto something. One of the most popular trends we saw on the runways and in mainstream fashion was fringe in many different forms. Scarves were another huge trend of 2025, which I've already talked about, especially those that ended in a sort of fringe or tassel detail. Quite frankly, we saw a ton of tassels even in and of themselves throughout 2025. Something else that's been coming back over the past year and a half has been vintage fur. This has come back for a multitude of reasons. One of the interests is, of course, sustainability, but I have already seen trend predictions for 2026 with images very similar to this. Now, when we think about periods, aesthetics, and silhouettes that have come back, no silhouette was bigger than probably the drop waist in 2025. This was in mainstream fashion and in bridal fashion. And if you think back to one of the periods that really epitomizes the drop waist, it is really the 1920s. Especially as fashion has finally kind of moved on from the quiet luxury aesthetic, I think the fun and the frivolity of the 1920s is something a lot of brands are channeling into their designs now. Perfect example, this beautiful feathered skirt that closed Mathieu Blasy's Chanel debut collection. And last but not least, if you think about Gen Z, for instance, there's been a huge resurgence in 1990s fashions. Think about this look from Naomi Campbell, and of course also the early 2000s, where Ashley Tisdale served this iconic look. All to say that to me, especially kind of the feather boa with the tasseled edges like this one, feel like the perfect kind of encapsulation of so many of the trends we saw in 2025. Especially kind of the fun of the 1920s, this resurgence of 1990s and 2000s fashion, and the major entrance in textures, fringe, tassels, etc. If I end up being the only one sporting a feather boa in 2026, well, at least I'll be wrong in style. Okay, bye.